Okay, we're talking to Marie Lane, who's a candidate for Ashtabula Municipal Court Judge in a November 3rd election. And Marie, one of the subjects that has come up, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not real familiar with it, is scheduling, something you're addressing in your campaign. Can you explain that?
Oh, absolutely. One of the major problems that I see in that court is the scheduling system. Currently, when an offender is arrested and appears before the court, they're not given a court date to come back for their second court appearance, 2, sometimes 3 months. And that just causes so many problems on so many levels. One, I see that, if there's a reason why an offender commits a crime, it could have been just a mistake, that there was a mistake that they need a speedy resolution to their case, or they have a substance abuse issue, or they have a mental health issue. So that's 2 or 3 months that underlying issue is going unaddressed. And if the offender is in the community continuing on in that behavior without any assistance. And unfortunately, substance abuse and mental health issues, they don't get better on their own. They need to be addressed immediately. So that's one problem. The second problem, because cases are set out so far, the 2 or 3 months, is that we've increased the likelihood that offender does not appear again at the scheduled court appearance. And then that what causes so many of our failure to appears that often people read about in the paper and they don't understand. And those failure to appears are just a waste of our court resources and our law enforcement resources, because now we issue warrants for them and law enforcement has to go and arrest them. Another problem with sending cases out so far, that even when an offender does appear, by that time they oftentimes minimize their criminal conduct. They in a denial sort of phase. So they're not as amenable to treatment at that time. Unfortunately, with my experience with criminal behavior, which is very extensive for doing this for so long, I find that often it's like dealing with children. When a child misbehaves, you have to deal with the problem now. You cannot wait 2 or 3 months. You lose all effect. And that is the same thing with criminal behavior. Let's deal with the issue now. So under my scheduling system, all cases are going to come back for their second court appearance no later than 10 days from their first.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. It does make sense. Now, it's an ambitious plan. Can you implement it?
Absolutely. I had mentioned earlier that I used to work in Stark County, and in the Stark County court system, which was a much busier court system than even Ashtabula has, they had a block scheduling system. Some courts in Ohio called it a criminal call day, but I refer to it as a block system, where each judge had a specific day designated only for criminal pretrials. And when an offender appeared at their arraignment and entered a not guilty plea, their case was automatically assigned for pretrial at that very next criminal day.
Wow.
And that caused cases to come through much faster. And the most important thing is to address issues sooner than later. Because not only do we have underlying, perhaps substance abuse or mental health issues, but we have people who just made a mistake and they are really looking for a speedy resolution to their case so they can, pay whatever consequences are required and they can move on with their lives.
Gotcha.
And further, we have sometimes there's evidence problems. But, evidence doesn't last forever. Witnesses move, memories fade, videotapes in stores get reused and evidence is lost. So if there's an evidentiary issue in dealing with somebody's case, we want to know about that sooner so we can obtain the evidence that the parties need.
It all makes sense. It really does. I was not familiar with that, even though I've covered the courtroom all my career, really. I don't see the behind-the-scenes look. Obviously you have. How does this relate to, say, the county's lack of jail space, which is always being brought up?
I see that the failure to appears that result because of the distance between the court hearings, that leads to the jail space problem. When we go out and arrest people for not coming to court, then they're picked up with the warrants and they're housed in the county jail. without bond or bond that they're unable to post because they had failed to appear. Well, now we're essentially warehousing people that really we could have, had already had their case resolved without the necessity of ever issuing a warrant, had we done it in a timely manner. So I believe if we cut down on so many of the warrants for the failure to appear, we will alleviate much of the jail crowding problem.
Now, I know you've been knocking on doors, campaigning, which is part of the game, part of it. When you have to explain this particular subject to, say, a resident, do they understand what you're saying?
They do, and they appreciate the fact of, or better yet, they often ask why cases are set out so
Sure.
far, and they don't understand why they have to be set out so far, and I believe that they do not. In fact, they must come through faster, and the citizens in this county, from my speaking with them, that's the kind of system they would like to see.
When elected, how long would it take you to put that into working time?
I'm going to start it immediately.
Really?
That I will pick, depending on my overall review of all the scheduling that's in place now, I'm going to select my criminal block call day. And soon as arraignments begin, I'm going to, all cases first coming in, when I'm on the bench, are going to immediately be put into that system. I'm then going to continually draw in the backlog and incorporate them into the system.
That's the word I was going to use, backlog, because you're going to have to make up for all the ones that were not followed up before. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But at least from the beginning, we'll start this new system and start from the beginning. But we'll be able to eventually catch up with the backlog of the cases that already come through that court.
Okay, good plan. I like that. I'm glad you explained it because I was not familiar with that. Thanks, Marie.
Thank you.